Are we live?
I think
We're
we're live.
live. We
Yes,
made it.
but nobody's waiting for us
Oh
before. I
no.
didn't actually let anybody know. Maybe
Oh,
that's
that's why.
an important thing.
You gotta let the people know.
Yeah.
Should we? How do we put this on LinkedIn, Twitter, and all the places so
Yeah.
people can enjoy us? Listen, it's been a
Oh,
minute, but there was a lot of
was
new
it valuable having
AI.
it on
Yeah,
LinkedIn as well?
it seemed like it. Yeah, it seemed like people actually liked it. Oh,
Oh,
we get somebody
well,
coming in anyway.
people are
They
showing
will
up
find
anyway.
you.
Yeah.
They will find you.
Yeah. 5.
Listen, I listen. I don't want to butter you up or anything like that, but I did see a post on LinkedIn. Speaking of about running Ollama and Docker, which seemed to get some traction, which is nice.
Yes.
Because we
Yeah.
did have that question last week about some strategies things around like multi GPU and
Yep.
containers or VMs or what have you, and it came up for
Right.
me as well at home. So I do want to see
Oh,
this
yeah.
video. So kudos to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got 3 3090s as I made it on stream last week, and I'm trying to consolidate my workstations. I got a new
Yeah.
7950X, and I'm trying to put everything on one box if I can, and try to run everything in one area. We'll see if it works.
Although I did get one comment from somebody saying, if people don't know how to do this, they don't deserve to use Docker. Like,
Yeah,
well,
the gatekeeper
yeah.
stuff, like, really? There is a flag though that I found. It's is it hyphen with hyphen GPU? I think that I hadn't seen
Yeah.
before, for example, just prior to recording last week's episode. Which honestly, if you've not used GPUs in Docker and you have used Docker a lot, like you would not have seen this flag, and I hadn't.
No.
So.
And
We
unfortunately,
all
it
start
doesn't
somewhere.
work on Mac.
There you go. Well, yeah, that also makes sense, right? Right, because it's a little bit different. It's is it called VM Kit or something? Virtual Machine Kit, Virtual Kit. Macs use something completely different now, right? On M1.
Yeah. I don't understand it, but yeah.
I mentioned early on when I first moved over to the M series that really all I was looking for was a way to create a virtual Mac OS on top of Mac OS. And surprisingly, it seemed like this wasn't something a lot of people were trying to do. For me, for testing Mac OS, specifically the just getting started kind of tweak stuff, which bugged me. I'd like to script those away, like right click on the bottom right corner of the trackpad. I realize for everybody, is for me. I think we've talked about natural scrolling before, but there's a few things that I want to go in and just, make my own way. And it's difficult to do without having like some other operating system to test on. So I end up making virtual machines, testing the script, and then releasing it that way. But I'm really behind on the Sonoma version because they keep changing where everything is. So it's difficult to keep up to date with the scripts without testing them all the time. It's tough. They're moving at a clip in terms of releasing new OSs. It's a mess. I will say though, I don't know, after spending 3 days trying to get Windows working on a 7950X, I can't. I realized he used to do a lot of Windows stuff, but it's really hard these days to like Windows, and I'm trying specifically to like Edge. And the fact that I can't uninstall it from the operating system really rubs me the wrong way. I don't understand why you'd force an operating system to be part of the OS. A browser to be part of the OS, which can't be removed. It's quite frustrating.
Wait, sorry. What was that? What?
Yes.
What is it?
Okay, so you've probably heard of Microsoft Edge. It's got like this new Bing search engine with Copilot, blah blah blah. They want you to use it. Totally get it. And I think even the print dialog box might use it. I understand why it's bundled. These days, however, it's replacing Chrome and migrating your bookmarks and tabs over to Chrome as part of a quote-unquote mistake. And it pops up when you start your operating system for the first time, which is really annoying. So like I hadn't logged into this box in a while, popped in, Edge popped up with my tabs and bookmarks and history from Chrome, which is like fine, but you picked the wrong profile. And I couldn't remove it. So I swapped the browser back, no problem. But there's no option to uninstall it now. You have to go deep into the bowels of PowerShell to remove it. It's pretty bad. And people are recommending Revo uninstaller. I say this not as a recommendation of this product. Don't go out and download this. I can't trust it. But as a way to use a GUI to uninstall an app that people have not chosen to install on their operating system. If it weren't a paid operating system, I could get it. But once you pay for an OS, it feels like you should have some control over it. And this, I don't know, maybe hijacking the bookmarks and tabs are where they lost me. But yeah, I was not having any of it. So it's removed now. But I just thought, like, if I want to put Safari in the trash on Mac OS, I can totally do that. It's not the smartest thing to do. But you can just trash anything you don't want in
Yeah.
macOS, and the system like fully won't boot if it's missing something, but it will allow you to delete it if you want to.
Hmm.
I don't know. Linux is the same
Yeah.
way. You can uninstall the GUI while you're using it and
Yeah.
then not log in again
Yeah.
if you want to. Anyway, maybe just griping to nobody, but I'm going to next to try the TPM upgrade to Windows 11. I'm not sure if you've heard of this. I haven't been in the Windows game for a bit, but you need a trusted platform module now to run to Windows 11, which is
Oh,
cool. So it forces like you to be able to
really?
enable like root of trust. Awesome. If you don't have one though, if you're using a desktop, it becomes difficult. You have to create a virtual TPM essentially, and TPM chips are pretty expensive, like $40. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a weird mess. Most laptops
Really? I
have
didn't know
TPM
that.
chips now. Yeah, and if you don't have a TPM, I think you have to create a virtual one somehow in UEFI, which might be a bit of a
Hmm.
pain. But yeah, this is where we are now. It's
Wow.
it's odd. So imagine having a laptop and you go to upgrade it to the most recent operating
Right.
system to support the game that you want to play, and you can't upgrade it
Right.
because your laptop's not hardware compatible, but it was released like 6 months prior to an OS being
Yeah.
released. Yeah, just anyway. I'm not bashing Windows, just some decisions were
Yeah.
maybe not were not thought out quite well. And I get why they're
Yeah.
doing the Edge thing. You got to get market share, got to show people
Right.
your install base, got to get people working on it, understand it. And I fully get that in the release process, somebody might have flipped the switch that said, yeah, turn on that new like migration experiment and see if it works for people and move everything from Chrome over because it's basically the same browser.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I
Yeah.
get it, but maybe a bit hasty or ask first.
Wow. Yeah.
But I think that old adage of like the default kind of tells you the way people will use your device. For example, the Samsung browser is the default on Samsung phones, and it's quite
Right.
popular a browser just because it is the default. And I feel like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Edge
Yeah.
browser will become popular because it is the default. And being a fork of
Right.
Chrome is, I mean, or Chromium, I guess I should say, is like not a bad tactic. But
Right.
yeah, this is not my favorite. The other is Teams. I start with OneDrive, but OneDrive you couldn't uninstall. Then Cortana, I guess, may have been before that. Cortana, OneDrive, then Teams got forced installed and was difficult to remove. Now we're into the Edge
Right.
era. Yeah.
Yeah. I know we have Teams installed on a lot of things just because I have a
Right.
365 business license
Right.
for
Right.
our kind of LLC. But and it's been installed because my wife likes to use it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Some
I've
people
tried to
legitimately like
uninstall.
it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I will say I'm getting a little bit fed up with the new Slack UI redesign. I've been using the web version for a good 6 months, maybe 7 at this point, because
Oh, really?
they changed the desktop UI, and I really wasn't a fan of it. As someone with astigmatism, I think I've said this enough times, but like they
Mhm.
changed the default colors for astigmatism, and it's like actually painful to use. And they applied the same
Mm.
color scheme to the web, and it's at this point in time, I'd rather use Discord, which is saying a lot because I'm not a fan of the
Right.
Discord UI. I'd
Right.
prefer to go back to HipChat, which again it's saying a lot. Or like IRC, like anything is better than
Yeah.
this.
Does
When
HipChat
the
still exist?
application, no, it doesn't.
No.
It'll just be me talking to myself, notes to myself. Oh, we got Endo back too. Wow, we've got a
Yeah.
few repeat
Wow.
joiners too. Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, howdy, folks. But anyway, listen, browsers be browsers. I've been trying out
Yeah.
Firefox recently and have been pleasantly impressed with the speed. It's
Mhm.
it feels like we're into the new browser wars again. I'm
Have
just
you
waiting for the.
spent much time with Arc?
I haven't, and I was trying to butter you up for this, so I haven't, but I've been looking at it recently, and I think that's where I'm at. Like, I prefer to pay
Yeah.
someone for a browser, which is like,
Yeah.
I like, wow, that's amazing. But
Yeah.
I would actually pay for like we mentioned Firefox ESR, for example. Like when I
Mhm.
found out that existed, I was willing to pay somebody $5-10, no problem, to keep
Mm.
this thing alive because I've got a box that honestly I'm not going to upgrade, but I do need a browser on it. And Firefox
Yeah.
ESR was fantastic. It was perfect.
Yeah.
So I feel like if I could pay for a browser that had, how do we say this, some AI sprinkled on top of it, I feel like I'd be happy. So similar to Edge, but
Right.
I think you've done me wrong by forcing installing this and not letting me remove
Yeah.
it. So yeah, I did actually look at Arc, and it's still around, right? Still around, still active.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's
that's where
great.
I'm at now.
I've used Arc as my main browser for, I want to say a little over a year. And it's been
I may follow suit.
flawless. Yeah.
Yeah, I've
There's
been
so many features
eliminating.
I don't use though.
That's all right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
But
features in your browser I'm sure you don't use now.
Yeah.
or it didn't use before.
And
Yeah.
and there are some that sometimes get a little annoying,
Oh yeah.
which you can
Like what?
turn off. Well, you can turn, but the default is to when a tab has been in your window,
Yep.
a tab's been in your window for a while and you haven't
Hmm.
touched it, it removes it.
Oh.
Well, I mean, you can set the threshold of how long it keeps it, or you can say forever. But sometimes, sometimes you'd have like 80
Yeah.
tabs, and
80
so it's a
is
good
small.
thing.
80 is
Um,
a small amount.
yeah,
That it's like the Twitter limitation. Like I understand having a certain amount of characters on Twitter and why they started
right.
that way, but I feel like having a limit on tabs might actually be good for me because I use and abuse tabs. Unfortunately, I get up to
Yeah.
400 easy, or like across multiple browsers, and the tabs are so tiny you
Hmm.
can't see the icons anymore. That yeah,
Right.
I feel like maybe if I knew they were going to disappear, I might compute more responsibly.
Hmm.
Like,
They also
actually
have
take
this
a note of
neat,
the URLs. Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
yeah, they have a neat idea of like a temporary browser. And
Oh.
so there's I mean, there's the incognito, just like you have on
Yeah, yeah,
Chrome,
yeah, yeah, but I
but
don't
there's
want that all
also
the
this
time.
idea of like a little arc, I think they call it, where it doesn't have
Ah.
all the tabs. It's just a simple browser, and except I don't remember the keyboard shortcut for it. So I like there's something I'd click on to bring it up, and then I don't do it because there's half the things in my tab list right now, are things why do I have notifications open on LinkedIn? And it's actually a sign up,
Right,
a login button. So,
gotcha.
um, yeah, I don't know, but
I'm looking for the actual price, so what am I missing? There are credits,
what?
for Arc.
What price? There's no price.
There's no. Oh, it's free. Oh, okay, see, I'm
Free
willing to pay
browser.
for these features. They
Yeah.
lost the client
I
by
yeah,
by
I
not
don't
selling it to me.
think they are charged. I don't think they're I mean, they might charge at some point in the future, but they haven't charged yet.
Awesome. Okay, well,
Mm.
it's downloaded.
But I'll
We
take your
shall see
money.
how it goes. Yeah, right, for the
Yeah.
recommendation.
Yeah, for the recommendation and for the invite. It used to be an
Right.
invite thing, so
Yeah.
I had plenty of invites, and then I didn't use them all.
I think that's where we're at now. Like OpenAI said they were thinking about creating a search engine, basically, or some search engine
Mhm.
like kind of functionality. And I
Yeah.
think early on in the series, I had said it feels to me like these Gen AI tools are more like the find out engines as opposed to the find engine.
Mhm.
Like as a training tool or a teaching tool, I feel like there's an
Yeah.
untapped potential there. I understand the hallucinations and potential
Yeah.
for like facts that may not be correct, but honestly, for the most part, I've actually had a pretty good time learning about like broad topics. Like teach me about
Sure.
the software industry or something like that. Like because I literally don't understand it. Like full honesty,
Right.
having recently joined a B2C or B2B to C or B2B
Right.
company, it it was clear to me that like there are roles within the company that I didn't fully understand. Like the machinations
Mhm.
within a company is a little
Right.
bit different than a typical company. And it's super handy. It's like explain to me this role. Like
Mhm.
what does this role do? Or like have I
Yeah,
missed
for
any
any
that kind of thing?
concept that has
Yeah.
existed for more than a couple of years, which is
Yes.
most concepts,
Right.
then it's great at. But if it's something that is specific to a technology that's a new technology, it's just gonna make up stuff.
Like, it does a good job of explaining DevOps,
It
which is a big surprise to me because
Yeah.
this is one of those things that, like, I think I've talked
Mhm.
about semantic diffusion before, but the more people talk
Right.
about DevOps, the less clear it is to me about what they're actually talking about.
Right.
A and it was very nuanced. It talked about sort of the beginnings as well as the CAMS approach, and then it maybe like a Wikipedia article summary, but it actually did a good job. I was impressed.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah,
the dog just open your door?
I think
This
my
is
wife opened the
amazing.
door and the dog came in.
I need one of those.
Um, um, the I don't know what I was gonna say. I was gonna say something relevant, and then the dog came in.
Fair enough.
Lost
So
it.
we were talking about like learning basically through Gen AI, and I think
Yeah.
the main thing about those abstract concepts is I don't know the question to ask yet, which is the
Right.
real problem. The reason I can't use Google for a lot of this, excluding all of the ads and the fact that my answer is never
Yeah.
above the fold, it's always like at least a page down, if not two. The answers just like aren't there when I don't know the question to ask, and
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm stammering a bit here because I'm not sure how to articulate this properly, but it feels like exploring a subject together with Gen AI may be what I needed, as opposed to some trite one-line answer from Google. It's basically
Right.
like the wrong method to learn. Don't Google
Right.
it and then read an article.
Right.
Have someone, like, if I asked you about a topic, it would be way more
Yeah.
interesting for me than to say, like, hey, what is Microsoft doing with Mistral, Matt? I don't understand what's
Right.
happening here. Like, if I asked Google that, it would give me a press release, that kind of stuff. Super cool. But if
Right.
you open a session with OpenAI, it will tell you, well, strategically, it might be good to have multiple vendors for Gen AI API backends, like, so much better. Anyway,
hmm
I feel like I'm
And that
ranting
was the
today, but
great
yes.
thing about Neva. That was
Right,
what was
which is
so great
canceled. That's
about
the one
Neva.
that I
I
was
mean,
confused
which
with. My apologies. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I paid, wow, it was $10 a month for access
Right,
to Neva, and you did a search. It found the search results, but it summarized the results, and it
right.
pointed out, here's here's a really good one to click on, and it made search so much better. It was worth paying for search. Um, and I don't know if it's hard to imagine paying for search otherwise. I mean, it was just so good.
Right,
Um,
and I had to look it up
yeah,
because I forgot who purchased them, but it's shuttered now, which is kinda disappointing,
yeah,
especially if there's actual revenue in selling a browser. Like, it's
hmm
pretty impressive, and it's
yeah,
Snowflake, which, again, maybe this makes sense, but I'd love to see a Snowflake
yeah,
browser. I don't know who we need to talk
yeah,
to,
yeah,
but basically, sorry, I had Arc and Neva confused in my brain, but I'm willing at this point to pay the $10 a month, having recently gotten rid of some subscriptions.
hmm
Like, I feel like this is a better use of my time because I do search the web. I don't, I feel like it's my job, like 8 hours a
yeah,
day, easy. I'm searching the web, just
right,
trying to learn stuff because I do, like, as a profession, I learn a lot, and you do
yep,
too. Like, this is really key for us when we're trying to figure out things like nascent technologies or emerging tech, or like new ways of doing things,
right,
new paradigms. It's hard to find something that's based on crawling the web, as opposed to something that can
hmm
just gobble up information and serve it back to me. It's
right.
Yeah, it's just a new paradigm.
Well, one of the neat things about Arc is that on any page that you're on, if you do Command F to search
Mhm.
to find on the page,
Right.
um, if it doesn't find the specific word, it'll switch to like AI mode where you get to ask the page a question and it just switches over to
Oh.
that, or you can default to that instead, and it's just built into the browser, and that's pretty cool.
That is really cool. Have you ever heard the term of a tar pit idea? Has that surfaced at
No.
all? Okay, this might be like a YC term. I've never heard it elsewhere, but they've mentioned it a few times on the Y Combinator podcast, and specifically a
Okay.
tar pit idea is one of those idea where like a lot of startups will flock to and think this is a great
hmm
idea, but unfortunately get mired basically there.
Yeah.
And one of these seems to be the OpenAI wrapper kind of idea. Like,
Yeah.
what do you do? I wrap OpenAI and then I serve it back to you,
Yeah.
which is for people just getting started out in these technologies, it actually may make sense because we're still
hmm
early days, as I mentioned, nascent, emergent. Things are changing on a regular basis.
Right.
But when I look at something like Arc or Neva, I feel like this is an actual use case that AI is
Yeah.
involved, but it's something that that's boring. I think is what Y Combinator says a lot. Something
hmm
boring that you take for granted, but also there's a bit of like toil or tedium involved.
Right.
And when you have something that you use all the time that's boring and established, and you can add in this tech that
Yeah.
makes the toil and tedium exciting, you got a real stew going, in the
Right.
words of Carl Weathers. Like, this to me seems like the kind of idea where we're getting to. And rag stack, totally get it, but you're talking to me about like an in-page rag is way more
Mhm.
interesting to
Yeah.
me than
Yeah.
like printing a PDF, popping on the stack, and then asking the stack some questions.
A great example of another company that does something that's boring,
Mhm.
but is just making it a whole lot better
Yeah.
is a company that was started by a colleague of mine. I don't know if you worked with him as much. Adam, who was on the training team at Datadog,
Yes.
he left to start Loops.so, I think it is.
I think so
And
too,
it's
yeah.
all about sending email.
Right.
And it's when he described, he's like, oh, he was like super excited about it. And he described what he was going to do. I like, great. That
You're not the only
sounds
one.
amazing.
A couple other people told me, and I was like, I mean, yes, I understand it because
Yeah.
I've used, I forgot who Twilio bought, but they purchased a
Yeah.
company that did transactional email, SendGrid,
Yeah.
who I'd used quite a bit actually,
Yeah.
because in
Yeah.
Azure, surprisingly, you can't use
Yeah.
Office 365 for it. So for me, it totally made sense. But unless you're in this problem space, it's not
Mhm.
obvious to you that sending email is non-trivial. It's actually quite
Yeah.
difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Like send
Yeah,
once
to
and
get
only
them to
once,
look
I
good.
guess.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some of
To
that.
look good, to
There,
be not bounce back, I mean, there's so many
uh-huh.
problems there.
There are, yeah, making an email look good. I know we're laughing about it, but unfortunately, I
Mhm.
spent way more engineering hours on making
Yeah.
email look good than I should have. Like the
'Cause you're stuck
MailChimp
with old
joke.
tables.
Yes, it's like HTML3. It's awful. The MailChimp
Yeah.
joke is funny
Awful.
because it solves a real problem. Like honestly,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm trying to think of the podcast that I got that from. MailChimp. What was that? Oh, it was an old NPR podcast anyway.
Mhm.
But MailChimp and the like, to me, makes sense because I've tried to do this problem before, and it's quite difficult. You can get the reputation of
Yeah.
your mail sending agent to be,
Yeah.
like, not spam with a big like Google, for example, or Office 365. Any of these
Mhm.
big MTAs will immediately say, "Who's this newcomer? Don't trust them. Don't send that mail," kind of thing, and
Right.
it's difficult. So, yeah, anyway, I've talked about him a few times. I think this has legs, but we shall see.
Yeah.
But
I
you're right,
know Ollama
boring.
was a customer, and yeah, um, I hope they do. I mean, they do really neat things. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I do I do always look at, like, I'm not as smart as YC people, obviously, but I do always look for, like, toil, like, more in the DevOps sense. Like, what is the one thing that you're doing repetitively over and over, and, like, is
Mm.
there an easy way to fix that, or tedium?
Sure.
So you feel like you're just, I don't know, working in the salt mines or something. It's
Mhm.
obviously not that bad, but whenever you're doing something repetitive and you think like, "Hey, is there a better IDE that could do this for me?" Like,
Right.
could I record this keyboard macro and play it back? There's a lot of that kind of thought process on a daily basis that goes through my brain, like, hey, this Wi-Fi setup should be easier or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think
Mhm.
taking those friction logs and then
Yeah.
inventing products that address them is like a really powerful paradigm. Way more
Yeah.
interesting to me than like, hey, guess what? This thing can generate art now. Why? I don't know,
Mhm.
but this is amazing. And it is. It is amazing. Don't get me wrong.
So
Don't get me wrong.
so I saw well, two things. I saw well, really one thing. I saw a video today. Okay, two things. I saw two videos today. One was
Yep.
by that DSLR Video Shooter, I think is his
Yep.
channel. Bald guy,
Yep.
and I think he's bald, yeah.
Yep.
And Caleb, right?
Caleb. Yep.
And he did his best things of 2023. Finally
Okay.
released it like in the last day, I think
I'll have to
today.
watch that. His content's fantastic. Yeah.
And at the end, he talked about two bits of software, and it was Karabiner Elements or
Carabiner?
Karabiner Elements,
Yeah.
and Keyboard Maestro. Things that I've used for ages, but it was
Oh,
like,
this is like
oh,
the
I'm
perfect
glad
2
he's
for
latched
you.
onto this. This
Yeah.
is great.
That is awesome. Yeah, I feel like it's
Yeah,
hard to use the macOS, especially as a
yeah,
keyboard enthusiast. But without these, like, yeah, being able to record
yeah,
macros and treat your operating
yeah,
system like a piece of software is a big, big deal.
yeah.
That's
And then he
awesome.
probably needs to add Hammerspoon. If he's getting into that, also get into Hammerspoon, which is pretty
Y
cool as well. A little
Yeah, if
more
you like
work, but
right, and once you end up in, like, the macro keys or using a numpad to
yeah,
do stuff, then, like, it's pretty key.
yeah.
Pardon the
But
pun.
then the
That's really
second
cool.
one,
Yep.
a second video I saw was a guy who was really excited about this new AI tool that he was using to, for this one specific task that he was having to
Okay.
do a bunch of times, and it just made it so easy. And the demo was taking a invoice,
Mhm.
copying it, basically selecting the whole thing and copying it, and then this service would kind of munge it and figure out what are the different bits that are on the page, and then
Okay.
being able to paste it into a spreadsheet or into a form or into different places, and all the fields automatically go in the right place.
Okay.
And this was a video is maybe a month old. Very excited about it, and it might even be, I think it's from a company called UiPath. I might actually be using
I
some sort of huh?
I know them well. I know UiPath well,
Yeah.
having implemented myself, yes.
It might be. It's a new product, so it
Okay,
might be doing something with AI. I don't know. It's got
right?
AI in the name, but I don't know if it really does. But I did the exact same demo. I have done this. I mean, like
Yeah,
copying an invoice, almost exactly the same thing. Copying the invoice, pasting it into Excel,
yeah,
copying that same invoice and pasting it into a PDF form because Google Forms did not exist at the time.
right.
So this is a demo that I did at OpenText. Oh, actually, no, at Capteris, the company that OpenText acquired.
Wow.
When we bought a
Sweet.
company that did OCR based in Constance in Switzerland.
Right.
Um, this is 15 years ago, and it did
Yeah,
exactly the same thing. The
yeah.
only difference was it was on far lower end hardware, and it was far faster on low end hardware.
I'm so sorry. When you were telling me the story,
So
I was like, I think Alfresco does this. Like, obviously way
yeah,
later than when you were working on it.
yeah,
But yes, this is one of those
and it might be
common problems.
more easier to implement now. Maybe I don't know, but it's
Listen,
an
listen.
old demo. He
UiPath
was
people,
very
if you
good.
ever find this video, your software is phenomenal. But no, implementation of UiPath has been not the strong suit. Let's say
Oh
it's a
yeah,
little bit more difficult than a 5-minute install, unfortunately. And
yeah.
listen, Alfresco is as well, and I'm sure OpenText is more than a 5-minute
Mm.
install. I think maybe things have changed.
This was a tool that had been acquired by, can't even remember the name of what the tool was. It was, I don't know. So Capteris bought that company.
Mhm.
OpenText was apparently in negotiations to buy the company as well, but Capteris grabbed it first.
Hmm.
And it was apparently the internal story was it was such a valuable acquisition. OpenText had no interest in Capteris, but they acquired Capteris to get that company.
Wow, that's
Um,
interesting.
and uh, and then later, like within a few months, I think Capteris's write-backs was like 40% of OpenText's revenue. So I was like, oh, well, maybe this is worth keeping.
I had to look it up, but Tesseract is what we used, and at the time, I think
Mm. Oh
everybody
yeah,
used Tesseract. It was just a
yeah,
C++ library that was
yeah,
super fast and
yep,
honestly pretty surprising. Even for
yep.
just searching PDFs, it was fun. This was when I was in biotech doing stem cell research at a
Mm.
company called Stem Cell, and we had gobs and gobs of scanned documents. Some of them
Yeah,
were pink, which is actually really
yeah.
difficult for
Oh yeah,
OCR. And yeah, we did it. We indexed
yeah,
everything. We ran through OCR for the pink stuff. We basically just lightened the
yep,
background a little bit, and it turned out okay. But yeah, it was really really impressive because it felt like a sea
yeah.
change at the time. OCR became something that everybody could use, and I,
Right.
I guess we forget that now. But OCR is actually really really really
Huge.
powerful.
Yeah,
And sorry, there's a lot of adjectives in there, but like the difference is mind-boggling between I
yeah.
think prior to that, when you search PDFs, they would always have like spaces in them when it did the automatic
Mhm.
OCR, and you could never search for anything because words
Yep.
would have spaces between the letters, which made it
Right.
very, very difficult. Didn't understand
Yeah.
font sizes and stuff like that. And Tesseract, very similar to OpenCV, kind of changed the way that machines sort of see
Mm.
stuff. In that maybe this unlocks some gates for other stuff, but honestly, being able to feed in a piece of physical media and search it in the search engine and get the data back,
Right.
as small as that may seem, is a really, really big deal. And then the same thing, if I can scan a spreadsheet
Yeah.
and then I know what the headers are and pop that into a CSV, also fantastic, or
Mhm.
like form input. But yeah, interesting. The timing is, it feels like what's old is new as well applies here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
Boring
another
software.
example of newer company getting into older business, but maybe now pulling out is Apple and its car.
They're going to cancel the car?
They're canceling the car. Apparently, the team has been disbanded, and all the people, according to Bloomberg and a few other pretty reputable places,
Now
the
here's the
car is
thing.
done.
What if the car was a headset the whole time? Because when I look at this headset, I can't help but think about what would this look like
Yeah.
as a car with 20 cameras on the
Yeah.
outside and a
Yeah.
screen on the outside that shows fake
Yep.
passengers inside. Like
Yeah.
all of this to me just spells car. And again, maybe
Yeah.
this is I've been watching Y Combinator too much because I think I stole this opinion from somebody else. But it does look like this could have been part of like an
yeah.
operating system that ran in a car, and they're like, why don't we shove this in a headset and stop the car? Because like there are some problems in building automated vehicles that I'm sure you're aware
Yeah.
of, that now Elon Musk is aware of, and other Waymo may be aware of. But it's dangerous once you're dealing in meat space.
Mhm.
Like it becomes an issue. But also the fact that Apple keeps saying, do not use this device in like a moving vehicle while you're walking around, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, interesting. Just reading between the lines.
I saw a must have been on TikTok or something, it was short type thing where
Yeah.
somebody was driving with what a headset. I'm not sure if it was the Apple one or somebody else's headset,
Okay.
but they're in the driver's seat and they're slowing down at an intersection and they slam into the car in front because they didn't see it because it was a little bit of a delay.
It's so bad. So bad. It's similar to the people bragging about playing like Mario Kart on their Tesla while they're driving in traffic. I don't think any of this is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
It's awful. The other one that happened, which was like a big surprise to me, was I somehow got access to I don't know if it's Gemini Advanced or Gemini Pro, but whatever Gemini I have on my Gmail account is
Oh yeah.
phenomenal.
Oh really?
It trounces OpenAI on most of the questions. Now,
Really? Okay.
I'm wearing the Datadog t-shirt, so I will say a lot of the questions I asked are Datadog related, but like I'm not trying to influence it or anything like that. So like, what is Datadog? Can you get the capitalization right? Because a repo has the wrong one, and
Yeah.
those and I have had to correct the agent a couple
Yeah.
times, not in Gemini, but on ChatGPT. It is phenomenal. So it understands what our company does, and I asked just around some product lines, what does this do? Like this product was released a month ago. Can I get this right? And it seems to be fairly up to date as well, which
Okay.
helps. And then understands like macro trends of software development, which was a big surprise to me. I was like, wait a second, what are those doing in here? It's like, well, you could do that, but have you thought about Terraform, Ansible, and Chef? And I was like, oh, no, we're getting somewhere. I think I asked it like, how do I install the agent on Linux? Like just pedestrian stuff. Like if I were to use this as a wiki or a source for documentation, how well indexed is this? And yeah, it's pretty surprising. Being maybe I don't know, having mentioned DevOps previously in the conversation, perhaps I had that in the context window, but yes, it would definitely recommend DevOps automation and monitoring tools, which maybe didn't always fit the bill, but still, like, hey, would you like to use, I don't know, Grafana to monitor your Datadog install? Probably not. But yeah, at least it understands the problem space, which I thought was amazing. It also gives you show drafts, which I really like. Like as I was creating this answer, here are some of the 3 drafts I think it gives you. Here are the 3 drafts that I went through. And often the first draft is actually pretty good. And I don't know if they water it down or something as it goes through. One thing it does do a lot is redact URLs, which seems safe to me, but we'll redact them. So I'd often have to go into the draft just to figure out what the URLs were. But yeah, would highly recommend pitting this against ChatGPT if you've got it, just to see how the two work. Haven't used the API in Vertex at all.
Yeah.
But in terms of the user experience, I've been pretty impressed so far.
Pretty cool. Pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't tried it at all.
I wasn't allowed to try it until recently. It was banned in Canada.
Yeah. Wow.
And
cool.
and have you tried Claude 2 with the 4K context window? Because that's my next test. Is
Claude? You say? No.
Not so much.
No.
Did I confuse with the French pronunciation of Claude? Sorry.
You did. I was like, Claude?
Like,
I mean, I haven't really played with it since it was part of. It was like you could use it inside of Slack. It might have been Claude 1.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, I should try that.
I don't know. I thought it was 2.
But
it was in. It was in. I mean, if you added the bot in Slack, and I think they removed it at some point.
Okay.
But it was always terrible. It was like every question you ask it would like I don't know. I mean, it would say I'm an AI bot. I don't I mean, like for like basic things, and that most models would know. It would just say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's like, okay, well, have you gotten useful at it? I don't know.
We had a pretty
Good
good question in
question.
the comments here. Yeah, and the long answer is I don't know. I don't know what the short answer is here.
Absolutely.
So it's BNF as opposed to BDNF. Yeah, it's a specific type of notation. When we were talking about the forms,
Oh,
basically. Yeah. So
okay, yeah.
when you're looking at typical form data, could you train this to do it? I don't know is an easy answer here, but I would say if you start training, it might be interesting to see the results. So uh, we did a lot of stuff with Python back in the day. Python was like our lingua franca for all the micro I can't say this microscopy. Mi- Microscopy. For some reason,
Microscopy? Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
thank you. That is a word.
yeah.
They're like 4K video camera microscopes that would shoot in fluorescent light, essentially
Hmm,
fluorons. Right? We would inject the cells with stuff that could show us the movement. It was very, very
hmm,
cool, and we ended up developing things that could show us whether or not it was in or out of the norm. So fiery
right.
transition, I would say like by default, maybe not, but it's certainly worth a try. It seems like being able to teach these models ways of recognizing new data formats isn't
Hmm,
that difficult, but I've not done it, so I can't say with any
yeah.
certainty.
Yeah, I mean, that's I guess I mean, there's Lava, which is,
Mhm.
taking images and then turning that into text. And there are, fine-tuning, where you can,
Right.
yeah, Ryan sounds a little muffled. I
Oh,
was
sorry.
wondering that too.
Is it me?
It's
Oh.
yeah, you sound like a little the low end is kind of
Nate
I was
wants to know
wondering
if
if
I've
it's
had
just my
dinner.
AirPods.
Here, I've got it set to lower the volume in case it gets too loud, but I can turn that off.
Mm,
Reduce background
yeah,
noise and adjust volume. Is this worse or better? The,
it's better when you
the
don't talk. No, what?
worse or better?
Say something more than just 2 words.
Something more than just 2 words for Nate from We Are All
It's still a
Family.
little bit heavy down there.
Oh shoot. Okay. Well, I'll
Yeah.
have to go in there
I
and
mean,
fix it later.
we're
I
figuring
bet you
40 minutes in.
yeah, I probably bumped one of the gain
Yeah.
things. Sorry, I won't.
Is my audio better than last
Yours is
time?
much better. Much better. Here, we'll try this.
Yeah.
We'll do what Nate
I,
says.
I actually ran into I've recorded a bunch of videos, last week. The one
Mhm.
that a video that did really, really well, talking
Yeah.
about embedding.
Yeah.
And, that, there were a number of things I said that were like 2-syllable words, and it would because of the way I had the noise gate set up, I would say the first part half, and it was
Oh,
there, and
no.
then it was, like, just dead. Like, "Ah, I don't care about it that much, but I'll
Ah,
fix it next time." And I dropped that noise gate a little bit, and, now you can hear everything without not everything. So,
yeah, yeah.
um,
Oh, this is pretty
but,
cool. So Fiery, I think that's a good answer. So basically, Fiery saying
yeah,
that they'll try it out. I'd love to hear back.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
Cyber Junkie says something more than 2 boomers. I mean, we're definitely a little bit younger than boomers. We're pretty close. We try to add a little bit more flavor in there, so it's more interesting. But today we're kind of talking a little bit about AI news and a lot about what is happening out there in sort of like the post AI or maybe avoiding tar pits is how we get started. So if
Mm.
everyone's wrapping open AI, then what else is happening out there right now?
You mentioned, that I mean, this is a different, topic, but you mentioned that you listened to the, YC podcast. There's,
Yeah. So
another one that
what? Yeah.
God, I'm trying to remember what the guy's name is. DK, I think?
Okay.
DK, like Cadlick or something like that, or DK, KD. Oh god, what's this guy's name? I'll figure it out and let you know. But another one that's kind of about what YC often talks about bringing startups into, go to market kind of stuff for startups. They do a lot of that stuff. So anyway,
Gotcha. Yeah.
unrelated to anything we're talking about.
No, it's totally fine, and I don't often watch the Y Combinator stuff. I think this is relatively new. Like, I'm subscribed to their channel. Full disclosure, I try to stay out of the Hacker News comments, but I do want to know what's happening. They seem to have
Yeah.
a pulse. The podcast I think might be new. So there's they had 3 hosts and I think 1 guest, and it might have been the
Oh,
inaugural episode. That
oh,
was quite good,
yeah. I
and
haven't seen that.
they cut it up into 3 or 4-minute clips, which is what I ended up watching, just
Okay.
a couple of the 3 or 4-minute clips instead of the whole
Mm,
thing, and it was quite good. So they talked about AI and AR VR were the two that I watched. And I thought they were pretty good. And then I get into a bit of a rabbit hole. AR VR, so augmented reality versus virtual reality.
Okay.
Yeah, so XR, I guess Apple would call it because it includes both. And that's where I got my car opinion, because it seems like a sound idea. Like all this tech that you've put into it would be perfect in a car, but this is a headset. Not a great headset, pretty good headset.
Okay, so I feel like this is an example of that podcast that I think is no longer a thing because there was some scandal at the company that ran the podcast. The Yes Yes No or Yes 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 No. Did you ever? There was that they would have some sort of meme. It was like a one tweet, 120 character tweet where they would say it, and one person on the show or two people on the show would basically say, "I have no idea what that means," and they'd like go through all the different rabbit holes to figure out what does this 10 words mean. But Matt Spoomer in a Gen Y chassis. I guess that So what's the age limit for Boomer?
I actually don't know, but I think you're younger than that. That's all I'm saying. We can find out though. Boomer
What's
generation.
Gen Y?
1964.
Okay.
You're born
before 1964.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you were born after that. I'm pretty sure.
Just barely. No, I mean like 6 years later. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, well there you go.
Yeah.
Listen, folks, I think you might not be far from the truth.
Yeah.
Gen Y chassis. Sorry, Cyber Junkie. The string delay is not that bad. It's just that we're really bad at reading the chat.
Slow at getting to responses. And so you could test this by posting a response, and I'll snap my finger as soon as we see it. So here's a science experiment. How slow is the... This is going to be really boring for a few seconds. Okay, say something. Anything.
Anything.
Now watch, we're going to get like 8 responses all at once.
No. Maybe it is 2 minutes delay.
Oh.
There we go. Enough. Yes, I need enough.
That's how long. Yeah.
Snap. Okay, there we go. Oh, we got him. Yeah, Matt does look like
I felt like it. I felt like so I for initially when I started working at Datadog, the sales I was in the Boston office, which was mostly sales.
12? I think based on this, you're 12, right? Based on this timeline.
So I started in 2014 at Datadog, or 2013, somewhere in there, and the sales office had like 3 or 4 salespeople, and 1 marketing person who is now I see Lauren is now VP of marketing.
Yeah.
So it was me and her were like the adult supervision for
this sounds awful. Matt was the adult
20-year-old
supervision.
kids. And then it was by the time I left, on days that I had to actually go into the office, there were like 600 people in that office, and they're all like fresh out of college. So
right.
Even because I would be in that office, it felt like, oh, I'm just like the same age. And I'd always think of, and it wasn't when I started being home less or more often, and then moving to Seattle where I'm not in an office, all of a sudden I'm like feeling my age catch up to me. I'm no longer the 20-something kid that I was in the Datadog office, because I'm surrounded by 20-somethings.
Right. Now, I had this discussion with my partner the other day, but I feel like my musical taste is somehow stuck in my 20s. Do you feel the same? And sorry, this is kind of random, but just in terms of the age stuff, because I've been listening to a lot of music lately, and I'm realizing that I'm listening to music that I would have listened to in my 20s, and I seem to be revisiting for some reason. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm pretty. I think I like to keep up with modern trends. So as long as it sounds just like The Cure and Echo and the Bunnymen and Psychedelic Furs and
exactly. So the trap I get stuck in, and my recommendation for this week is Idols. That's all one big word, IDLES. They sound like Fugazi and Gang of Four, and I'm a big fan of Fugazi and Gang of Four. And maybe it sounds derivative, but I'm
Gang of Four.
gang of four, like we would say like a proto-punk band. So a punk band before there was punk, basically.
Because I had seen live another group called Gang of Four. I think it was Gang of Four. That was a hip hop band, hip hop group or rap group. When I just saw Public Enemy and Gang of Four and somebody else, but they were like the opening acts for what the actual band that I was there to see, that apparently no one else in the whole stadium was there to see, and that was Sisters of Mercy.
Oh, Sisters of Mercy is great. Oh yeah, there is a Gang of Four. They've got a song called Cheeseburger.
Yeah.
I've not heard them. Interesting.
Yeah.
Gang of Four was like a 60s, 70s punk rock band. So way before the Gang of Four.
Has Ryan frozen?
No.
Or have I frozen?
I don't know.
Did I freeze? Do you see me moving around?
Yeah. Types of stream delays.
I just see you. You're like an oil painting now for me.
Fantastic. Can you hear me at least?
You're coming in and out. Ryan has frozen, or Ryan has stayed streaming.
Ryan has frozen, probably. Okay. Is the audio back at least?
Your audio is back a little bit, but yeah. I will not be going the full Lex Luthor. Although I did temporarily when I was still at Datadog, I did. Oh, frozen. Is it just me or just him? Him? He's frozen. Okay.
This too shall pass.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So right now,
do you have any recommendations?
My hair is probably a little bit long in the back, and so I get my wife to like shave every now and then. And once she came up with a shaver, I went, "Oops!" And so that day I had to take it all off.
The full Lex Luthor. Are there any recommendations that we should know about, Matt? Have you picked it?
Recommendations. Are we already at the time?
We are. It just flies by. It's because we don't talk to each other anymore.
Yeah, let's see, do I have it with me?
This is the fun part of the podcast where Matt goes rifling through his bags.
Yeah. Oh, where'd it go? I got a new. Oh yeah, here we go. So people are kind of like, you spent 160, well, it turned out to be like more like 180 for a pen. And so I went and bought another pen.
Okay, because that makes sense.
As one does. I got another like a notebook. So I had that big notebook, which is great when I'm standing here at this table. But I ended up getting another one of the Luke Term 1917 notebooks. This is their Outlines edition, which is a dot grid, but it's also weatherproof. Ooh. So that's kind of cool. But it writes like normal paper. And I got a pen, a small pen. So this is like 3.5, 4 inches long. But it's unscrews, and it's a full fountain pen.
I see that.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yes. And it writes really nicely. It's a Chinese company, and it was like, I don't know, 18 or 20 bucks. So
I love the way Americans say Chinese. It's a dirty word or something. A Chinese company, yes.
Chinese. Did I say Chinese? No,
I think it's just the accent. I think for some reason,
okay.
It's like underscoring the
so
Chai.
I was made fun of when I was 13 or 14 years old. I went around to my uncle's. I stayed with my uncle and aunts and cousins.
Yeah.
And they live in Birmingham in England.
Okay.
And we went for a we rented a canal boat and went down the Stratford Union Canal in the UK for like a week, which was gorgeous.
Yeah.
And the dog jumped into the water because like he felt like jumping in the water. And so I was like in I said in a very panicked way, like hey, everybody, watch out! The dog's in the water, like really fast.
Oh,
The dog's in
water.
the water.
Yeah.
And the story is now told often by my uncle about how this, the American nephew, the American cousin for their kids, said, "The dog's in the water." It's like, that's not what I said,
You
but
poor
that's the
thing.
story.
Was it Boston accent? Is that what they're trying to make fun of? The dogs in the
I didn't have a
water? Yeah, I don't know what accent
I
that
don't know.
was.
I mean, I didn't move to Boston until 10 years ago.
We don't have a Boston accent. At least I don't think
Yeah.
you do. Very interesting.
It's just that's just their American. All Americans have this funny accent.
I've worked for British companies. British accents are also sometimes interesting.
Yeah. But if you have a British accent, maybe you don't hear an accent. That's just normal.
I think everybody can understand that Scouser is different than normal English. Scousers like
I mean, so
the
like
Liverpoolian accent, like it's obvious.
whatever
difference.
accent you have,
Yes.
is the accent. Like, and
Yes.
and sometimes
You're trying to tell me
some of the
people from Liverpool don't understand that they speak differently than others.
But if there's
much love to the Liverpoolians.
if you have if you grow up in, say, in London, and
Right.
you have a father from Liverpool and you
Right.
have a mother from Gosport down in the south, or Portsmouth, those are, or go a little bit further west to Plymouth, those are very different accents.
Yes.
And most other people will recognize as those different accents. But if you grew up with those two people, will you notice that they have an accent? So other people who would meet by my father, who had a pretty strong Welsh accent, and my mother,
wow, that's
who had a pretty strong Portsmouth accent or Gosport accent, they would make fun of, and they'd like record funny recordings of imitating my parents. But when I hear them, I just hear they sound the same as you. I don't hear an accent on those.
Yeah, what's it called? Like code switching or something? Interesting.
Yeah. And like I remember there was a like a NPR story about somebody who had just went to college, and somebody in that school said, "Why do you talk so slowly?" And nobody had ever said that to that person.
Right.
But the person, when you hear that person's voice, it is really slow. But that person, I don't know if it was a he or she, didn't know that they talked slowly and weren't able to understand that they were any slower than all the people they heard. So they hear it all the same speed, which is like magic. I mean, it's the brain is funny that way. Yeah.
I grew up being told that I talk too fast, and a lot of my career is slowing down because my family all talk fast, and I'm part of the same family. It's difficult. We sound like hillbillies.
We both sound like
this is what you're laughing at. Yeah.
What was that show? The Hillbilly. Was it the Beverly Hillbillies?
Yes, I grew up watching the Beverly Hills. Yes, on CDZ, which is like I think similar to your NPR or what do you have? Public PBS, I think, public broadcasting.
PBS, yeah.
It's what I grew up. Y'all come back now. You hear? Like I can do the accent, no problem. I really like
Grand Ole Opry.
I also used to watch the Grand Ole Opry. I grew up pretty country, if I'm honest here, and I probably do have a bit of twang in there. I'm sure.
If you ever find yourself in, I guess that was in Nashville, Opryland Hotel. My God, that's a massive hotel. It is enormous. You can be. I was there for Microsoft when I was still at Microsoft. A big Microsoft conference was held there, and you can walk through these gardens with this river through in the middle of the hotel, and it's all doors.
A friend of mine is at HPE, and I think they had their sales kickoff there last year. The photos were phenomenal. It's like a jungle
It's
inside
a
of a
pretty
hotel.
weird place. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Anyway,
incredible.
they're in Nashville. I'd love to go to Nashville. Apparently,
Yeah.
they have so many studios, like recording studios that you can go look at and rent if you want to. Looks phenomenal for audiophiles.
We did a conference there, and that was I'm pretty sure that was the time that our department had, at Microsoft, especially at that time. I don't know if this is still the case. If you were given budget, you had to use that budget, and if you didn't use that budget by the end of the fiscal year, which was like July 1st or something, then you got less the following year. And this conference was right around that time, maybe a few months earlier. It's like, we're not going to be able to spend this money. I mean, we've got this extra $500,000. How do we spend 500,000? I mean, this is 20 plus years ago. How do you spend $500,000 and you get it gone in like 2 months? And said, we're going to be at this conference. Let's throw a great fireworks show. So we blew $500,000 on fireworks.
Is that a lot of fireworks?
It was apparently one of the biggest fireworks shows at the time in like Nashville history.
That is phenomenal.
It was a pretty big
The reason
show.
I say this is my understanding is that fireworks are way more expensive.
Fireworks are very expensive, yes.
Yeah.
But this is also 20 years ago. This would have been 2003.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's $500,000 in fireworks in 2000 times.
Up in smoke.
That's hilarious.
We got the budget back.
Yeah, there's something about it. Feels like, how do I say this properly? It feels like as we get older, the opportunity for doing things that we've done in the past is not necessarily there any longer. And this is like a shining example. I don't think there's any other time you're going to get a $500,000 budget to blow in Nashville and decide that fireworks are what you should do. Like if this were all to happen again today to current Matt, this would
I'm sure there would be. I'm sure it would have been. Well, I think even at the time, that group would have, for the right purposes, donated to some charity or something. But that would go into a different budget area, so it had to be spent on like a service and not as a donation. And so I think so it had to be spent with a vendor on a specific thing. It could not be for, a charity kind of thing. I seem to remember that detail as well. It's fantastic. It is 2 minutes before 3 p.m. in the afternoon here in Seattle. And I believe also not I believe, but it is.
It definitely is. Yeah. Ryan time zone. I was trying to figure out where Endo might be because that time is not. Endo sounds Japanese to me, and I hate to assume this, but it's not Tokyo. That was the first thing I checked.
So
that's
7, 8, 9 plus. So 15 hours ahead. 15 hours ahead.
Yeah, where is that?
Or actually, potentially a few hours behind. No, it wouldn't be behind. Okay, where are you?
Yeah, Endo, you got to tell us. Because this is not Japan, which is what I had assumed. My apologies.
It's the 28th, so it's in the future. Okay.
Yep. Oh, is this a riddle? We now need to find the APAC country that is only 15 but not 17 hours ahead, and we'll find the region.
So in Sydney, it's 10 a.m.
Yeah, so it's gonna be further back.
It's a bit before that. So what? Singapore? India? No.
Thailand. Yeah, Thailand's a good call. All right,
Thailand.
I know you don't need to tell us, but we'll triangulate you.
Where in Thailand? I mean,
Nate's
I gotta know where in Thailand.
Yeah.
Oh, Nate's just guessing.
Yeah. Oh, it is Thailand. No, we get Thailand. Okay, yeah. There we go.
Oh, Thailand.
There we go. Thailand. We have like people from all over hugging in to listen to us. And Nate, I believe we've established is in Sydney or at least Australia. Sorry, we shouldn't say Sydney.
Well, Bangkok. Yeah. That's
I've never been. I want to go.
Yeah, that's the site of my one of two professional photo, not really photo shoot, but photo like where my photo appeared in a brochure was in Bangkok because on the way back from Nepal. One of the
Right?
2 times I've been to Nepal. My sister always loves going through Bangkok, and she likes to
Mhm.
stay. So my sister
I
used to
hear it's
go
amazing.
to Nepal a lot,
Mhm.
and so she'd always go back through Bangkok, and we went there and we stayed for like 5 nights at the Shangri-La right on the
Ooh,
river there,
nice.
and I had a great balcony, and I took this photo, this long time-lapse photo of these boats passing by. It was at nighttime. I did a whole bunch of them, and also time-lapse, but also like stitched together, so it was like a panorama
Yep.
time-lapse. Um, and and then I put it on my Flickr, and the hotel, the Shangri-La hotel there, um, reached out and said, "We love this photo. Can we use this
Fantastic.
in our marketing material? We'd like to put it on our brochure." I said, "Great, it'd be wonderful." Says, "Well, how much would you like for it?" I said, I guess next time I'm there, maybe
That's
you can
always
just
the
give me
play.
a dinner,
Yes. Yes.
or a really nice dinner or something." I said,
Yeah.
and their response was, "Great, we'll put you up in one of our best rooms for 5 nights and give you a wonderful dinner at our best restaurant." And then that
Don't tell
was
me you've never
that,
been back.
and then I've never been back.
Oh,
And
no.
it was looking like, I knew that I wasn't going to be going back for a long time. So, and
Right.
my sister was still going there a lot, and so that became like her birthday present. I gave it to her.
Oh, that's really cool. At least you paid it
Um,
forward. That's
and
awesome.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
no,
I'd love to go. My sister was in Thailand for a year and a
it's
bit
beautiful.
and
It's
and
great.
just loved it. And I know Nate's saying they didn't like Koh Samui. She loved Koh Samui. So I think it depends on the person.
That's also where I did my centerfold shot, my
Yeah,
centerfold photo.
I believe it. Like George
In
Costanza on a chaise longue. Yeah.
Well, no, where I laid down with a tiger, a living, breathing tiger,
Whew,
and with my arm around the tiger.
whew, that sounds very romantic.
Yes, it was.
This needs to go in like Patreon, our Discord. Where can
So that
subscribers
was
see this photo?
I we went to
Paid
this place
subscribers.
between Bangkok and Chiang Mai. There was this tiger farm or tiger thing, and you could go and play with like the baby tigers. They were just born just a few weeks before,
So
and you had
cool.
time like 10 minutes, 15 minutes with these baby tigers. But then you also had 5 or 10 minutes with the big tigers, and you got to go
Wow.
inside the cage with big tiger. Like the tiger is longer than me, and you sit down
Wow.
and you hold the tiger, like put your arm on the tiger, and the other person with you can take a photo of you. Um, and then
Baby tigers, this is definitely a
um,
boomer move. You're getting called out in the chat.
and then
It's so true, but also so
we
cool.
got back. Well, we got back to the baby tiger. Okay.
Yeah. We got it.
We get back to the hotel and we look up this facility that we just went to. We just had this amazing experience. And just like the week before, somebody was at that place and the tiger wasn't as docile and went, "Ah!" And it took him like 70 stitches to sew him back together.
Yeah, that's a no from me. I
So
think that
I did not go again.
the main point of contention here in the chat is that you're saying baby tiger instead of a cub. But listen, we gotta understand that Matt's been like weaned on baby shark, so it's baby everything for Matt.
Baby, everything. Yeah.
All
Our
right.
our 5-year-old likes to pretend she's a baby too. So
Yeah, listen, that's totally fine. On this awesome note, with this image
yes,
in mind, shall we call it and think about where our
I think
Patreon
so.
needs to
I
be
think so.
in order to get these people access to this wonderful image?
I will share the URL to it. It's publicly available.
Phenomenal.
Alrighty, let me look for the end stream button.
That was
There we
fantastic.
go.
Thanks so much for the participation in the chat.